John Loredo, the Honorable John Loredo. It's a former representative. John Loredo served in the Arizona State House of Representatives for 7 years, from 1997 to 2004. In 2003, Representative Loredo became the first Latino and youngest person ever to serve as Democratic leader of the Arizona House of Representatives. That's quite a feat. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Chairman Cummings and members of the Platform Committee. Thank you for allowing me to come testify before you here today. I'm here to talk about two issues that we've had plenty of experience in dealing with here in Arizona. One is the attack on voting rights, and the other is the attack on common sense campaign finance regulation. They're interrelated, and addressing both issues through the policymaking process is critical to strengthen our democracy and make our elections work for everyday people. In 1998, Arizona voters approved the Arizona Clean Elections Initiative. It was a revolutionary system that would allow candidates to run for office on a blend of small contributions and public funds. For the first few cycles, it worked very well. Candidates from diverse backgrounds without access to money were able to run for office by relying on $5 contributions. $205 contributions qualified you for the system. There were some immediate impacts of public finance on the political spectrum in Arizona at the state legislature. One of the most dramatic impacts that we saw is the increase in people of color who were elected to the state legislature, as well as women. We saw people of color elected in districts that were not majority minority districts. It was very difficult for a person of color to run in a non-majority minority district because people of color aren't supposed to win there. And so it's hard to raise money because nobody expects you to win. When we had public finance and we had people qualify for clean elections, they suddenly had the funding that they needed in order to run a competitive race. And with the money being equal, it really did become about the quality of the candidate and the quality of their ideas, and we started to see people getting elected at all levels. There was also a pretty dramatic impact on policy, public policy. There was a very close margin between Democrats and Republicans in the House and the Senate, and it led to more coalitions having to work together in order to build votes. That moderated the state legislature. We had record investment in public education, record investment in public health. We had the ability to kill really bad voter suppression bills that would come down the pike from the more conservative members. I distinctly remember my freshman year walking into my office, and there was a lobbyist from the Arizona Chamber of Commerce waiting for me, and he had this very nice glossy kind of thing to hand out to me, and it had a big 98% on the front, and he said 98% of what we want passes, and 98% of what we want killed gets killed. After we had a whole bunch of clean elections candidates run and get elected, they stopped passing that out because those percentages dropped, and they dropped dramatically. Corporate special interests get involved in politics in two different ways. They get involved on the front end, buying who they want for public office, and when that doesn't work, they just wait for them to take office, and then they indebt the hell out of them. They put them on the hook because they know that if they can indebt somebody once they get elected, that impacts public policy. For clean elections candidates, neither one was possible. They couldn't fund their campaigns because they were running clean, and they couldn't donate corporate checks to their campaigns after they got elected because that was illegal. Couldn't do that. It made public policy much more tempered at the state capitol. In 2010, when we lost the matching funds for clean elections at the U.S. Supreme Court, it all fell apart. Candidates who had voted, or members who had voted against really extreme policy, I distinctly remember going in to talk to them after we lost the matching funds of clean elections, and they looked me in the eye and they told me, I can't vote against that anymore because I can't defend myself now. They're saying that they're going to take me out, and they're going to do it, and I can't defend myself anymore. And policy took a very hard turn to the right. Just a few months ago, on Election Day during the presidential primary, we saw the kind of chaos that the Supreme Court can cause with its out-of-touch decisions. For the first time, Arizona did not have the protection of Section 5 preclearance of the Voting Rights Act. We saw record-long lines, waiting in lines for hours and hours and hours to vote. The polls closed at 7 p.m. Some lines didn't end until 1 o'clock in the morning. That's how long people were in line. And many people simply turned around and walked away because they either had to use the restroom or they wanted to eat or they wanted to go home and see their family and take care of their children. The Maricopa County clerk dramatically reduced the polling places. They went from a couple hundred polling places down to 60. That would not have been allowed under Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. It wouldn't have happened. Another really bad voter suppression bill that Christian talked about, our voter engagement groups here are really, really successful at registering large numbers of people. One of the things that we have is we have what's called PEVL, the Permanent Early Vote List. If you're on the Permanent Early Vote List, you sign up once, you're on it forever, and you get your ballot 26 days before the election. Now, when you have your ballot 26 days before the election, it's possible to target those people, primarily minority voters, and with field, phones, mail, the whole bit, get them to turn their ballots in. One of the things that they do is because these voter engagement groups are in the neighborhoods all the time. They're in the neighborhoods, they're trusted, respected people in the neighborhoods, and they're well branded. People will allow those canvassers to carry their ballots and turn them in. And so that happened quite a bit in minority neighborhoods. The state legislature ran a bill outlawing that and made it a felony offense for one of our canvassers to collect somebody else's ballot and turn it into county elections officials. A variation of that bill was passed years ago, and under preclearance, it never saw the light of day. The Department of Justice came down hard on it. They kicked it right back to the state. The state knew there was no way that they could defend this bill, and they chose not to, and they let it die. Without preclearance, voter suppression is alive and doing well in Arizona and across this country. For our part right here in Arizona, people are out on the street as we sit here today gathering signatures to put an initiative on the ballot to repair the Arizona Clean Elections Act and add much needed transparency and accountability back into the system. This citizens' initiative is key, but we need Congress and the next administration to act too. The 2016 Democratic Platform must call for the restoration of the Voting Rights Act and modernization of our election system. It must call for legislative and regulatory measures to increase transparency in political spending. We need an elections agency that actually holds people accountable for breaking the law. We need to change our Constitution and our court to value political equality and say that democracy isn't speech. And most importantly, the platform should call for a small donor public finance system at the national level to increase participation and make sure every voice in the political process can be heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll have one question, and that's from Ms. Tandon.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments on small donor public financing and the whole range of issues. I just want to say I agree that we have to recognize the centrality of all of these issues to democracy, and I will use my voice to do that on the platform. I also think it's really important to recognize that we do have candidates in this race who have started off the presidential process actually talking about voting rights, talking about public financing. The connection between these issues and how they restore democracy are really important. I just really wanted to make that point.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.